Well, first of all, thank you to whoever made that video. That's not mine. But I need it. The best advice I ever received in my life came from a 14-year-old kid in the 8th grade. Now, I was also a 14-year-old kid in the 8th grade at the time. We were at the end of our middle school year, on our way to graduation, and I was sitting next to my friend Brandon. Brandon just happened to be the best basketball player at our school. I was not the best player. I had just started playing, wasn't very good. Brandon and I were going to different high schools, and I was smart enough to ask the best player I knew for some advice. I said, Brandon, what do I need to do to get better? If I want to become something in basketball, what do I need to do? Now, I knew Brandon was on his way to be a 4-year starter on varsity wherever he went, and I was going to a different school. I didn't know what I would do. But Brandon told me 2 things. He said, number 1, Dre, you got to stop playing scared. You can't play basketball scared. You can't be successful being scared. And number 2, you need to buy a game. Now, buy a game is a euphemism for just get some skills. Now, putting those together over the years, what Brandon told me in my own experiences, I came up with this whole philosophy here that I call work on your game. And that's what I'm going to talk about here today. Now, this first principle, I'll tell you about a basketball game. I was at a basketball game a couple months ago, watching as a spectator. And a colleague of mine turned to me during the game and she said, Dre, do you miss the game? Do you miss playing in basketball games like this? Hell yeah, I miss playing in the games. I mean, you show up to an arena, a bunch of people travel there, pay money to watch you play a game, and you get paid to do it. Nobody gets tired of that. If you ever hear of a professional athlete walking away from the game, there's only 3 reasons why they do it. 1 of 3 reasons. Number 1, injury or physical breakdown. Their body just physically cannot do it anymore. Number 2, opportunity. Nowhere to play, nowhere to go, no team will sign you, you're done. Number 3 is this first principle. I call this principle the 3rd day. Now, what I explain to people about physical fitness and working out is if you want to be in great physical shape, go to the gym and work out once a day. If you want to be in competitive shape, win some trophies, some medals, some prize money, work out twice a day. If you want to be a professional athlete, you're training 3 times a day. I knew once I decided that I wanted to go from training 3 times a day to once a day, I was done playing professional sports. I just wanted to be in great shape. I didn't want to be a pro athlete anymore. And this principle of the 3rd day, the reason that I'd like to share this first, let me give you a different example that would be more personal for you. How many people in this room are on, or maybe you've been on, let's call it an exercise vacation? Well, you went on a little hiatus for the gym. A little bit of me time you needed from working out. Don't raise your hands. So I guess I'm talking to somebody. Now, when you came back to the gym, or when you come back to the gym, I'm going to tell you what happens. The first day you come back to the gym, you feel great, right? You made a new commitment to fitness and health in your life. You got some new workout gear, signed up for a new gym. It's a new you. First day you show up to the gym, I mean, you're not in shape. You haven't worked out in a while. The workout kicks your butt, but it's a new thing. I mean, it's like getting a new car. First time you drive it, it feels great. You drag yourself home, look yourself in the mirror, and you say to yourself, hey, I haven't done this in a while, but this time is for real. I'm doing this. Now, on the second day, your body's a little sore. I mean, you haven't worked out in a while before you had that first workout. The trainer knew you hadn't worked out in a while. He made you pay for it, right? But it's still a new situation. I mean, it's like, remember when we were kids and we got a new toy the second day? It's almost like we forgot we got it the day before. Second time driving the car, still a new car. Second day, you drag yourself to the gym. Trainer kicks your butt even worse because you're not going to get in shape after just one day of working out. Drag yourself home after that, look at yourself in the mirror. You're dead tired after the second day, but you're like, man, now I got a streak, right? 2 days in a row. It's not just something I did once. You say, I'm doing this. Now, on the third day, things change. On the third day, you know those microwavable bags of popcorn you get from the grocery store? Put it in the microwave on high on 3 minutes and the bag pops up. See, on the third day, getting out of bed sounds like you're making a bag of that popcorn. So on the third day, those new workout shoes feel like they're made of cement. So on the third day, see, at gyms, they like to put the friendliest, most bubbly person at the front desk to say hi to you. On the third day, you don't even want to make eye contact with that individual. You're just not feeling it on the third day. And your trainer or that class instructor, you don't want to hear their mouth on the third day. See, the third day, ladies and gentlemen, is the day where your self-discipline, or lack thereof, clears its throat and announces to you, allow me to reintroduce myself. See, the third day is any day, any situation, any circumstance where things are not new anymore. The luster of the uniqueness has worn off. There's no more novelty. You really just aren't feeling it, but there are things that have to get done, and it's your job to get them done. See, in this sense, the third day is not an occurrence. It's not something that happens to you. The third day is a choice, is a decision. Now, there's a reason why, when I found out I'd be speaking here at MDMC, I decided to open with this principle called the third day. Because today, I'm speaking to the professionals, right? This is a room full of pros I'm talking to, right? And the thing about being a professional is, whether you're playing sports or you're in any industry, is that a pro is always a pro, every day. I remember I was watching this Mike Tyson biopic years ago, and we all know Mike Tyson, right? Now, when Mike came up boxing, he was discovered by this old Italian guy named Cus D'Amato. Now, Mike was in the streets. Cus found him, saw some talent in Mike, taught him how to box, taught him physical discipline, taught him mental discipline, taught him how the skill of boxing worked. And Mike starts boxing, and he's just destroying people. He's devastating every opponent. He finally gets his chance to, for the first time, fight for the championship belt. But Cus, he's an older guy. He was in bad physical health. So he's in the hospital the whole time leading up to Mike's first championship fight. So Mike, of course, is in the hospital. He's sitting bedside with Cus, and he's telling him, listen, Cus, you're basically my father. You took me out of the streets. You taught me how to box. If it wasn't for you, I'd probably be dead or in jail. If you can't be at my fight, I'm not fighting. They'll have to cancel the fight. Now, Cus, again, he was in bad physical shape, so he couldn't speak too loudly. So he called Mike close, and he called him Michael. He said, Michael, do you know what a professional is? And Mike said, yeah, Cus. A professional is a person who gets paid to, and Cus cut him off. He said, no, Michael. Professional is a person who goes out and performs every single time, regardless of what he's feeling on the inside. Now, that may all sound great, but there are a couple drawbacks to the third day, and I got to make sure I tell you about it. Because I don't want anyone write me a DM on Instagram a couple months from now saying, hey, Dre, you didn't say anything about that when you were talking about the third day. First drawback is, let's say a month, a year, 6 weeks from now, you're at work and you're just not feeling it. You're having one of those days where you're just not feeling it. We all have those days, right? And you're not sure you're going to be able to bring your full effort this day. But you remember, you know what? This is that third day thing Dre was talking about at that conference. So you decide, you know what, I'm going to get locked in. I'm going to get focused. You motivate yourself. You remember something I said about Mike Tyson. You get yourself going, and you really lock in and you do your job. You know what happens at the end of that day when you really show up and do everything you're supposed to do, are fully focused and deliver 100% like the pro that you are? You know what happens to you at the end of that day? Nothing. Nothing happens. I mean, you're a professional. You showed up and did the job of a professional. Thank you. See you tomorrow when we need you to do it again. And the day after that. There is no tangible reward for showing up on the third day and doing your job. Now, there's another drawback. I got to tell you about this one too. Let's say on that same day, you're having that third day, and you just happen to have a colleague or a coworker who is also dealing with the third day at the exact same time, same day. And while you get yourself locked in, focused, motivated, you do your thing, this person decides, you know what? I'm just not doing it today. Today, I just ain't got it. I'm not showing up today. They don't work at all. They're at work, but they're not really working. You ever seen somebody like that? What happens? You know what happens to that person though? At the end of the third day, when they don't show up and don't do anything? Not a damn thing happens to them. See, whether you show up or don't show up on the third day, there is no tangible, immediate reward or penalty for what you do. And if you remember only one thing about this principle called the third day is that your relationship with the third day will not be obvious until it's obvious. Which leads me right into my second principle. So I told you what Brandon told me in middle school, right? 8th grade, he said, stop playing scared, go buy a game. So I thought I was taking his advice to heart. I went to high school, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to try out for this basketball team, and I'm going to make the basketball team. Now, where I'm from in Philadelphia, the school that I went to, we didn't have a freshman team, we didn't have junior varsity, we only had varsity. So either you make the varsity or you're not playing. So 9th grade, I try out for the team. I shot the ball one time in 9th grade in tryouts. I only took one shot. But here's the good news, because I would watch the coach during basketball tryouts. If any of you ever tried out for a sport, if you watch the coach, you can kind of see how they react to something that happens. So I would watch, and I would see some guy who I knew wasn't very good, but he would just make this wild shot that I knew he wouldn't make the other 100 times he shot it, but he would make it, and the coach was impressed. So I'm looking at him like, all right, all I got to do is make one shot, and I can make the basketball team. I'm serious. This is what he was doing. I shot the ball one time in my tryouts in 9th grade, and I like to tell people that the ceilings in our gym were kind of low, so my one shot hit the ceiling. Safe to say I didn't make the team in 9th grade. 10th grade, I tried out, didn't make it again. Now, by my junior year, I'm ready to go. I'm 16 years old. I'm getting more physically mature. I could shoot better. I was getting better at dribbling the ball. I mean, if I got a running start and everybody got out the way, I could dunk. And here's the thing. I've always been an avid reader. So I read that Michael Jordan didn't make his high school team until he was in 11th grade. So I'm still on track to be the greatest player of all time. My junior year tryout was my worst performance of all 3 years put together. I didn't make the team again. Now, the happy ending to the story is I did make the team as a senior. And over the course of that year, I was counting on for consistent between 15 and 20 points. Now, if you watch basketball or you don't, that's not LeBron James numbers, it's not Steph Curry numbers, but it's a respectable contribution, right? 15 to 20 points, that's respectable. But my 15 to 20 points weren't my per game average. I scored 15 to 20 points all season put together. So how did I go from there to signing my first pro contract in Lithuania in 5 years from that point? It's because of this principle that we call the separation day. This is the second principle. See, every time you show up on that third day and put that extra work in that you didn't have to put in, you create just a little tiny bit of separation between you and anyone else who did not. And as you accumulate them over time, you slowly create a gap between you and everybody else who's not putting in that extra work and doesn't have that discipline that you have. See, during those 4 years of high school, while I'm trying out for the basketball team and not making it, I would be at the park in Philadelphia outside working on my game, practicing. And everybody in the neighborhood, I mean, we all knew each other. Everybody knows me. Like, okay, Dre, you just started playing a few years ago. You're not good. You never made your high school team, but you're out here practicing almost every day as if you're going somewhere. So players be walking by the court. I'm on the court practicing. They're walking by going to the mall or something, and they're making jokes. They're laughing at me. They're like, Dre, you're out here doing all this extra work for nothing. I mean, you're not on the high school team. You're not doing anything. You're practicing as if you're going somewhere. What do you think I said back to them when they were talking all this junk to me? Y'all got it right. I didn't say anything. I mean, because they were telling me facts, right? You know, we say hashtag facts. I couldn't say anything back to them. But over time, I created separation between me and all those other players. And this thing, when it comes to the separation day, at sports or in business, this is all about the mental toughness you have to keep doing the work you're supposed to do, even before the results show up. Now, for this third principle, I'm going to tell you another story. This guy named Tucker. He was in high school. He was on the basketball team. Junior in high school, 16 years old. One day they had practice. The coach blows the whistle. Everybody gathers up for practice for the coach to give his few little remarks. And the coach says, today, we're going to do something different than what we normally do. I know that you all are used to me blowing the whistle, screaming at you, yelling at you, pointing out your mistakes, because that's what a coach is supposed to do, right? Today, we're going to do something completely different. Today, each one of you is going to go through this whole practice playing basketball, imitating one of your teammates. So whatever your teammate, I'm going to assign each one of you to be one of your teammates today. So make sure you watch that guy, because everything that you do well every day, he's going to do it. And every bad habit you have, every mistake you're always making, they're going to do that too. Now, who is here at this conference with someone who you work with on a day-to-day basis? All right, now don't look at him. So coach goes around the room, 12 people on the basketball team. He's assigning, you are going to be him, you be him, you be him. So he goes through the whole room and he assigns everybody who they're going to imitate all day in practice. Now Tucker, this person telling the story, he is maybe the 12 guys on the team, he's maybe the 8th or 9th guy in the hierarchy in terms of skill on the team. So he's not a very good player. He's a kind of a below average basketball player. But on this particular day, through the luck of the assignment, Tucker gets assigned to be his teammate Mike. Now, who's Mike? No, not Michael Jordan. Mike just happened to be the best player on the team. Leading scorer, future Division I college basketball player. So if I pause the story right there, you tell me, how did Tucker play that day? How did Tucker perform this one day in practice while he's being his teammate Mike? Who thinks Tucker played amazing, out of his mind, unbelievable basketball that one day? Who thinks Tucker played about the same that he always plays, because he is who he is? Who thinks he played worse because he was trying to be somebody that he wasn't and he failed? Or who's not going to vote? Just wait for me to tell the rest of the story. All right. Tucker said he played ball that day better than he had ever played in his life. He was doing all kinds of moves. His teammates are looking at him wide-eyed like, where is this coming from? They'd never seen him do this before. Mind you, they see him every day. He had never done any of this. He's making all kinds of shots. Everybody is shocked. He blew himself away. Tucker's coach, at the end of practice, said, Tucker, if that's what it takes, you need to pretend to be Mike every day. Now, what Tucker had done, he didn't know this, but what he had done is tapped into this third principle that I'm sharing with you. I call it the super you. The super you is still you, but it's you at your highest possible level of confidence. And also, actually, when it comes to that highest level of confidence, you remember what I told you Brandon told me back in 8th grade? Stop playing scared. See, it's like this. Each one of us is kind of like a house. And every skill that we have, every ability is like an extra room in the house. So you can have a 10-bedroom house, you can have a 65-bedroom house, depending on how many skills you have. But when you have these negative energies, fear, anxiety, stress, worry, It's kind of like you lost the key to open up the door to that skill. So it's not like the skill went away, but you just can't access the skill. And this is where we get frustration. You ever get that feeling where I know I can do this, but I keep not doing it? That's what happens when you play scared, as Brandon told me. The super you is when you have a full set of keys and you can open all those doors. But here's the other thing about the super you, and this is the key element to it that matches right in with Tucker's story, is that the super you is the permission you give yourself to not conform to who you have already been up to this point. See, that day when the coach assigned Tucker to be Mike, he gave Tucker permission. You don't have to be Tucker today. Forget everything you've done up to this point and just be this guy all day today. See, it's not that Tucker came up with all these new skills out of nowhere, did he? He didn't just get skills in 5 seconds. He already had these skills, but he also had the permission to not have to worry about conforming to who he had been already. Now, the ending to Tucker's story is that he was unable to maintain it. The next day, he went right back to being Tucker again. Now, for you, how long that super you lasts is completely up to you. It's completely your decision. But how do you actually apply the super you? What if you don't have a coach? What if you're not on the basketball team? What if you don't have a Mike who you're trying to be? You're not trying to be like Mike. How do you apply the super you? I think we're all familiar with this principle we call fake it till you make it, right? You've heard this principle, fake it till you make it. Some people think fake it till you make it is an effective strategy for increasing your confidence. Some people think it is a complete waste of time, doesn't do anything. Maybe you think it makes you worse. But here's the thing about fake it till you make it. The truth about fake it till you make it is that fake it till you make it doesn't even exist as we know it. There's no such thing as faking it till you make it. And here's why. If we look at Tucker's story, when the coach told him to be Mike all day in practice, and he started doing all these amazing moves that he'd never done before, was he doing those moves for pretend, or was he doing them for real? That actually happened. And when he was shooting these shots that he never makes, but he was making them, was the ball going in the basket for fake, or was it going in the basket for real? It was going in the basket for real. So fake it till you make it, there's no faking involved. See, as soon as you make the decision to be someone other than you've been up to this point, it becomes 100% real. Again, it's just a matter of how long are you able to apply it. But what if you're not playing sports? I mean, in sports, it's win, lose, black, white. What if you're in a world where it's not so black and white, it's not always win and lose? How do you apply the super you without being cocky or arrogant or being so confident that you don't exercise caution when you should, and it maybe gets you in trouble? First thing that I tell people is that I tell you 2 things. One is that human beings are imperfect. I don't believe that there's a such thing as a perfect balance when it comes to confidence. And the other thing is, from my experience of talking to so many people over the last 13 years since I've been online, if you were to give me a random sampling of adults, I don't care where they're from, what they do, male or female, I would always assume, and usually I'm right, that they could use more confidence rather than less. So I'll just let you ask yourself this question, just a little mental experiment you can do for yourself when you think about how you can apply the super you. In the last year or 5 years of your life, how many times have you been too confident, too arrogant, too cocky, went too far, didn't exercise caution when you should have, and got yourself in trouble? And I want you to compare how many times that happened to how many times you didn't go far enough, stopped short, didn't say or do what you wanted to say or do. Years later, you're still kicking yourself about it because you didn't exercise enough confidence. So if you're going to make a mistake, which one do you want to make? Fourth principle I want to share with you. Let's take it away from sports and let's go to the battlefield. When we talk about the great generals in history, we have Napoleon, Hannibal, Genghis Khan. We got Alexander the Great. Now, Alexander was, at a very young age, he controlled one of the largest spaces of land of anyone who was alive at that time, maybe the largest. And Alexander was known for being very successful in battle. That's why we know his name. But in one particular battle, Alexander and his army weren't doing too well. Now, this day on the battlefield, now Alexander would be out there fighting alongside his men, but this day on the battlefield, it wasn't going so well for Alexander. And Alexander, even though he was a great general, he was still smart. He said, you know what, we need to get out of here. We need to retreat because we're not winning this one. Let's fight another day. So what he does is he sends this signal to the rear of his camp for his trumpet boy, because back then, mind you, there's no Bluetooth. We're not on satellite yet. So he sends this signal to the rear of his camp for his trumpet boy to play a certain trumpet. You've seen the movies where they play the trumpet and then the army reacts. To play this trumpet of retreat. So when the soldiers would hear that sound, it meant, okay, we're done battling, let's retreat and get out of here. There was a formation and they had a plan for this. So Alexander sends the signal, play the trumpet of retreat. He keeps fighting, but nothing happens. He doesn't hear the trumpet. They keep fighting and they keep losing. So Alexander, a few moments go by, he gives the signal again. Keeps fighting, they're still losing, no trumpet. Alexander gives the signal a third time, very urgently, because it's getting worse. Again, no trumpet plays. So Alexander says, okay, he didn't say this, but he went to the rear of his camp, found out what's going on, because, mind you, this is literal life and death. He goes to the rear of his camp. He demands that the trumpet boy be brought to him. Now, mind you, this is Alexander the Great, okay? This is not one of your professors in class. This is the most powerful man in the planet right now. Calls you and demands you answer why you have not done what he told you to do. I gave the signal for the trumpet of retreat 3 times. Why haven't you played the trumpet? Now, the trumpet boy, he couldn't even look Alexander in the face. He bows his head and he says, I'm sorry, Your Highness, but I didn't bring the trumpet of retreat with me to the battle. You see, Your Highness, I'm so used to us winning every battle that I only bring the trumpet of victory. That's the only one I carry with me, because that's the only one I thought I would need. Now, Alexander, mind you, the battle was still going on while this conversation is happening. Alexander is listening, he processes this, and he says, okay, all you have is a trumpet of victory. Play the trumpet of victory. So what happens? Alexander's army hears the trumpet of victory. They rally back and snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. Now, that's a cool story, right? I wasn't there when it happened. But let's look at how that actually worked. Alexander's army was trained to know that as soon as they heard that trumpet, it meant no matter what the situation was in front of them, if we give this last push, you know, like the 2-minute warning in football, we give this last push, we can finish off the enemy and win the battle. They were conditioned to know this. And the thing is, us humans today, we are more sophisticated and advanced mentally than Alexander and his army ever were. Being that we have more trumpets than just the trumpet of victory and the trumpet of retreat. We got a whole collection of trumpets we can play. And the other thing is, unlike the soldiers in Alexander's army, we don't get told which trumpets to play. We can choose whichever ones we want to play based on whatever's in front of us anytime we feel like. We have free will to decide, unlike the soldiers who were told by somebody else what to do. The problem is, we don't play the trumpets that help us often enough. We spend a whole lot of time playing trumpets that are taking us backwards, like the trumpet of self-doubt, the trumpet of defeat, the trumpet of indecision, the trumpet of hesitation. See, all of this is part of our mental conditioning, and this 4th principle is about mental toughness and mental conditioning. See, in sports, we have conditioning. If any of you played a sport, there's some kind of conditioning that goes on in every sport, swimming, baseball, basketball, and people think, and we do the conditioning why? So we can be in shape for the game, right? So we won't get tired. People think incorrectly that when you condition yourself properly physically, it means when you perform that you don't get tired, that you don't feel fatigued. That's not true. See, I don't care how great of a shape you're in. If I take you to a basketball court right now and have you sprint up and down that court 10 times, you will feel fatigued. What differentiates people is that the person who's in great physical shape needs about 30 seconds of rest before they can run full speed again. The person who's not needs about 30 minutes before they can run full speed again. And in life is the exact same thing. when it comes to this conditioning. And to show you how we're all conditioned, let me ask you, do you know or have you ever known a person who, no matter what happens, where you are, who you're around, they always find a way to get angry? You ever known someone like that? You ever known a person, no matter what the situation that's presented to them, what the possibility is, how great the opportunity, they always find reasons to doubt themselves and doubt the situation? What about a person who always finds the positive? They always find the bright side in anything that happens. This is all mental conditioning. It is a choice that we have, but when you condition yourself for something, it happens automatically without thinking about it. The decision that I'm offering you today is that you take control of your conditioning. Alexander's army, he had chosen how they were going to condition themselves. And even though they didn't have that trumpet of retreat that day, as soon as they heard that trumpet of victory, they were so well conditioned to win that they were able to go out there and do it. And the thing about mental conditioning is not that in life, is not that everything is going to go great. It's not that you'll be able to control everything. Because if we think about it, 99% of what happens in our lives, we have no control over whatsoever. It's what we do with that 1% that matters. And that is where the mental conditioning comes in. Now, in conclusion, why are you here? Why do you come to a conference like this? When I think about it, I think, of course, you want to get some knowledge. You want to learn how to better do what you do, right? You want to have fun, enjoy the venue, enjoy the event, build relationships, make new friends, talk to people you haven't seen in a while. And you do all of that for what purpose? So you can perform. Now, whether you're playing basketball, football, you run a marketing agency, you're a podcaster, you're a lawyer or a doctor, we are all in performance-based businesses. And I tell people when it comes to sports, a sport like basketball, there's only 3 things you need to understand basketball. Number 1, when you have the ball, put the ball in the basket. Number 2, when the other guy has the ball, stop him from putting the ball in the basket. And number 3, at the end of the game, if you have more points than the other guy, you win. That's the performance. That's all you need to know. And everything else that you hear or see about basketball are means to the end of performing to win the game. That's it. In business, number 1, when you perform, you win the business or you get to keep the business. Number 2, if you do not perform, you lose the business or you're out of business. And number 3, the only thing that matters at the end of the workday, at the end of anything you do, any action you take in business, are the results that you produce. Because I don't care how nice you are to your clients, how friendly you are, how pretty your slide deck is, if you are not performing, you're losing that business. Is this true or not true? And everything that you do in business, whether it's learning, communicating, attending a conference like this, are all means to the end of performing. And when you perform, you get the business. And to close this out, I want to tie everything together here. We're talking about working on your game and all this mental game stuff and performing at your highest possible level. Before I started playing basketball, I actually played football. I played street football, touch football in the driveway where I'm from. And then I was going to play on a football team, but I didn't have equipment, so then I moved on to play baseball. And I played baseball for several years before I realized that since I couldn't hit, throw, or catch, I should probably move on to basketball. Now, while I'm playing these sports, I found out that there was a guy who was playing both football and baseball professionally at the same time. His name was Deion Sanders. They called him Prime Time. He was all about the show. He was a great performer. There's one thing you said about Deion, he was a performer. And some people didn't like that because he had a flamboyant style. He kind of a little bit of a show off, but he was damn good. I mean, in baseball, he was okay, but in football, he was a Hall of Famer. This guy got inducted to the Hall of Fame a couple years ago. So they couldn't really criticize his game. So people who didn't like Deion would criticize his style. They say, this guy's all about himself. He doesn't care about the team. He'd rather look good than actually win. And people would ask Dion about this. They would say, Dion, you know, your critics say that you care more about how you look than actually helping the team win. What do you say to that? And Dion said, and we're going to close it right here on this, and this ties everything together. Dion said, see, people don't understand. It all works together. He said, the reason why I care so much about how I look when I do my thing is that when you look good, you feel good. And when you feel good, you play good. And when you play good, they pay good. Everyone, my name is Dre Baldwin. Please enjoy the conference. Thank you. It's been a great audience.